Welcome back, everyone, to this Illumination English video lesson. The title of this lesson is Fear Factor. We looked at an article in the previous part one in the previous lesson. So if you haven't seen that yet, go back and watch that before you go to this next part here that we're going to look at next. In this slide here, we have our vocabulary boost. We have all of the phrases. Well, one is just a word. Okay, we have a word and some phrases from the article Fear Factor that we read together. I've got some sentences here. Yes, in some of the comments, some of you have been asking for more example sentences. So we're going to look at three that I already prepared, and then in the next slide we're going to go through the process of making several sentences using one of the expressions from the list here, and I'll kind of talk you through it. So let's go through the vocabulary first, starting out with the first, and these are all in the same order as they appear in the reading. Okay, first on the list is break out in a cold sweat. So if you break out in a cold sweat, you kind of, not necessarily suddenly, but you begin sweating profusely, usually as a result of some kind of extremely stressful or dreadful situation, something that causes you great anxiety. Okay. The next word is jump out of your skin, and this is a kind of a nervous reflex action, a kind of a sudden a jerking motion you might have, like if somebody says boo, you know, or comes up behind you and taps you on the shoulder, and you have a kind of a reaction. So you feel like you, not literally, of course, you're not jumping out of your skin, but it feels like it because of the biological, the physiological response of a kind of a jerking motion. The next word here is in the same boat, and that means to be in a kind of a similar, or could be the same exactly, or a similar circumstance or situation. Phobias are a kind of excessive or irrational fears that we have. Now, some of these fears are shared in common, like a fear of heights or a fear of spiders, which actually can be a good thing because spiders can be poisonous. you just don't want to be too extreme, but we all do share some kinds of phobias. The next expression here, rush, a rush of something, a rush of excitement, a rush of pleasure. In this case, I put the whole phrase in here, but we're focusing on the rush. It's the kind of overwhelming sudden emotion, a surge, like a wave of emotion that comes over you. It can be a negative emotion, but usually it's something neutral or fairly positive. Sheer terror. Again, we're focusing on the word sheer here. It could be sheer terror, sheer delight. Again, a positive or negative actual feeling. But it focuses on the completeness. Sheer means complete, absolute something. Okay, so absolute horror, absolute happiness. Okay, so sheer. Let's look at the next word or expression here, fight or flight. Okay, so this response we all have instinctively, intuitively, to any kind of perceived threat. We feel like we either have to face the threat and deal with it, right, the fight, or run away if it's too much for us to handle. Consider the lion scenario. Now, let's go on to the next phrase, change the tape. So this is a really common expression. This is for like when you have a habit of thinking about something. So we say these tapes, like in the old days when we had cassette tapes. Those of you younger people watching this this video lesson may not remember what tapes are, but in the old days when we had cassette tapes, we would say that if you keep replaying these tapes in your mind, keep thinking or dwelling on something over and over and over, it can influence your behavior, and sometimes negatively, of course positively as well. But usually when you talk about changing those tapes, it's some kind of a negative thought that you keep thinking about over and over, and it can be very destructive if you don't change those tapes. Our next phrase, the best and worst case scenarios. Okay, so in every kind of a situation, you have an outcome to think of. What's the best possible outcome or the worst possible outcome? And thinking about those can influence, which choice you make or which direction you follow. The last phrase, comfort zone, really, really common. And that's the one we're going to focus on to make some sentences. A comfort zone is just a really comfortable, nice, friendly, welcoming place. It can be a physical space or it can be a mental, emotional space where you're just completely safe. All right, let's take a look now at some sample sentences. Okay, I've bolded the actual phrases here so that you can more easily identify them. Let's take a look at our first sentence. Let's read it out loud together. Our boss told our team that we're all in the same boat, so we need to paddle together. Okay, now team refers to kind of a working team. Nowadays in office environments, part of this working culture, they have people working in teams. Okay, so it's not an athletic or a sports team. So the boss told the team that all of the people in that team were in the same boat. Okay, they were in the same situation. So they needed to paddle together. This means to kind of cooperate, get along, teamwork, have better teamwork. Okay, so that's our first example sentence. Let's look at number 2 and read that together. Whenever I have to give a speech in front of the class, I break out in a cold sweat. Here's one of those stressful situations that we all fear, getting up in front of others and having to speak. And that can cause great anxiety, which causes you to sweat profusely, and sometimes you have to break out in a cold sweat where you're not really physically exhausted. It's just nerves, prompting another kind of physiological response. All right, let's look at the third example sentence and read it together. Tom looked the school bully straight in the eye, and his fight or flight response kicked in. Okay, we don't know what Tom did. Did he put up his dukes and fight the bully? Or did he run away? We don't know. But his natural instinctive response to either face that fear or run away from it kicked in. And to kick in means, it's a part of a kind of a trigger response that our body has when we're under some kind of a stressful situation. All right, these are our 3 sample sentences here. Now we're going to focus on just one of the phrases because it is so common. Comfort zone. You hear this all the time. Nowadays, people call it a safe space too. But it's either one, comfort zone or safe space. So let's think about how we can make a sentence or several sentences. We'll try different sentences. And I'll talk through the process with you. And let's get our text box set up here. Okay, make sure the text is big enough and we'll bold it. Great. Okay, so let's first of all think about what a comfort zone is maybe for you. Okay, for me, my comfort zone would be in my bedroom. Okay, so I can just identify that in a sentence using that word. My comfort zone is my bedroom. Okay, that's one sentence. Identify what is a comfortable, safe place for you. Now, you might want to extend, that's a very simple sentence. You might want to extend that a bit. Think of another sentence. Let's see. If I want to try to, go out of my comfort zone, I could try something new. Okay, so trying something new can be very, scary for some people. So let's see, something new I could try. I do speak a lot in front of others, so I won't say that. Okay, this would really make me go out of my comfort zone. Skydiving, because I have acrophobia, fear of heights. Yeah. Okay. So let's say, okay, I'm going to challenge myself. Skydiving. So let's use that as a gerund, as the subject of a sentence. Going skydiving would really make me go out of my comfort zone. Okay, so think of something that would make you go out of your comfort zone. You can make a sentence like that. Okay, 2 sample sentences there. You can do the same thing, follow the same pattern, but of course it will be different for you. And you can write your sentence here. Of course, this box I always leave for you to write your sentence in. Of course, not really. You can just write it on a piece of paper, or of course you can also type it in the comment section after the 3rd part of this video lesson, and I will respond, reply, give you some feedback or correction on your sentence. All right, so I'd encourage you to do that as well. Stick around for part 3 of this lesson, where we are going to be looking at the vocabulary in sentences. So I've got some sentences with blanks in them, as I have done in the past, and you have to match using Quizlet as a background. You have to match the target vocabulary, target phrase or word, and put it in the correct sentence. So I'll join you there for that in part 3. See you later.